A massive fallout has just rocked Ife after a heated physical confrontation involving Gospel's aunt and TikTok Olori. A third party has jumped into the ring with a shocking accusation. Gospel is being accused of trading sacred secrets to outsiders and bloggers, all while pretending to be Olorishado's best friend. They say she isn't just a wife, but a partner in crime who leaks the most sensitive matters to the public. May the Almighty protect you from friends who act like sisters but leak your secrets to the world. Every partner in crime waiting for your downfall, may the light of truth expose them today. Amen. You trade sacred royal silence for cheap relevance. You open your mouth to outsiders like you care about the throne, but you are the one feeding the fire. My crown gives friends and families, the palace is shaking with a new level of betrayal. Welcome to Crown Gist, where we bring you the deepest royal updates. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now to stay protected with the truth. We respect the Yoruba culture deeply, so we use fictional names for certain sacred rituals and personalities. But as you keep watching, you will understand these names perfectly. The dust has refused to settle in Ife, my Crown Gist fans and families. The palace atmosphere is currently heavy with suspicion. You see, everyone is talking about the recent drama between Gospel and TikTok Olori, but the real story is what happened behind the scenes. It all started when Gospel reportedly carried TikTok Olori's son into her own quarters. Some say it was just a child playing, but in a palace where everyone is afraid of everyone, that move was seen as a threat. TikTok Olori went wild. She descended on Gospel with a rage that shook the walls. She felt she had to protect her child from those she fears most in the palace, Gospel and Olorishadow. But the drama escalated when the aunt got involved. Gospel's aunt stepped in to defend her niece, telling TikTok Olori that motherhood is an honor, not a weapon of oppression. This didn't sit well with TikTok Olori's own aunt, and before you know it, the palace was on fire with two elderly women fighting a war of words. The Golden King, seeing the chaos, had no choice but to act. He ordered Gospel's aunt to leave the palace to restore peace. But just as the aunt was packing, a new voice entered the fray, accusing Gospel of being the biggest leaker in royal history. They claim Gospel has been sitting down with bloggers, feeding them information about who is sick, who is pregnant, and who is faking it. You chase sacred silence for relevance, the voice claimed. They accused Gospel of faking her friendship with Olorishadow while secretly throwing her under the bus. They even claimed that the story about TikTok Olori being in China was a cooked lie created by Gospel and her outside connections to embarrass the other wives. Gospel was seen crying heavily as these accusations flew. But the dragging didn't stop. They say she sit down like she didn't say anything, but her mouth has already traveled across the internet. The level of wahala is now at a peak because people are beginning to analyze the situation. Is Gospel truly a partner in crime with Olorishadow, or is she playing a solo game to eliminate every other woman in the palace? The Golden King is watching, the Ife elders are watching, and the sacred silence of the palace has been broken by the very person people thought was the most quiet.
The palace of Ife is currently standing on a keg of gunpowder. You see, after those heavy accusations that Gospel was the one leaking the sacred secrets of the throne to bloggers, the atmosphere turned toxic. The accusation wasn't just about small talk. They accused her of trading the royal family's dignity for cheap social media relevance. They said she would sit with Olorishadow as a partner in crime in the morning, but by evening she would be on the phone with outsiders, narrating everything that happened in the inner chambers. The drama reached a boiling point when they brought up the matter of TikTok Olori's health. Remember the rumor that was flying around? The one that said TikTok Olori was pretending to be sick and that she had been hospitalized for 3 days? The voice in the palace screamed that it was Gospel who cooked up that entire story. They said she even went as far as working with certain people to lie that TikTok Olori was seen in China, just to make her look like she was neglecting her royal duties. Why will you carry that mouth and sit down like an innocent lamb? They blasted her. You are the one telling bloggers that TikTok Olori is faking her pregnancy, that she is faking her sickness, and that she is not who she says she is. Gospel was reportedly shaking, her face covered in tears as she tried to defend herself. But the voices against her were loud. They pointed out that her friendship with Olorishadow is a friendship of convenience, and that both of them are the most feared women in the palace right now, because nobody knows where their loyalty truly lies. Even more shocking, my crown gist parents and families, is how people are now looking at the Golden King Sokot. Some people are beginning to analyze this situation with a very suspicious eye. They are asking, why is Gospel still being allowed to move so freely if she is indeed the one leaking palace matters to outsiders? Some say the Golden King is being too patient, while others believe he is simply waiting for the Ife elders to gather enough evidence to act. The wahala deepened when TikTok Olori herself finally spoke up through her tears. She didn't just talk about the child carrying incident, she addressed the betrayal. She asked how a woman who calls herself a mother and a queen could use another woman's pain to feed bloggers. The confrontation was so intense that it got her to step in to prevent a physical fight between the wives. Gospel, despite her tears, later found her voice. She didn't just keep crying, she started releasing her own heavy fire. She claimed that those accusing her are the ones actually guilty of the leaks. She said they are jealous of her foundation and the way the Golden King looked at her. But the question remains, if she is innocent, why does every secret conversation in the palace end up on a blog just a few hours later? The trust in Ife has been completely broken, and the sacred silence that the Yoruba culture holds so dear has been replaced by the noise of betrayal.
My crown gist friends and families, the tension in Ife has moved from mere words to physical evidence. You see, while Gospel was busy shedding tears and claiming her innocence, a massive trap was being set by the palace security. They say that the Golden King does not sleep with both eyes closed when there is a leaker in his house. The discovery that shook the palace happened on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, and it involved a palace maid who was very close to Gospel's inner circle. The security team, acting on a tip-off from the Ife elders, intercepted a palace maid who was caught trying to delete heavy voice notes and screenshots from her phone. When the phone was seized and the files were recovered, the palace went into a state of shock. My crown gist friends and families, they say the phone contained direct recordings of conversations where Gospel was allegedly narrating the private movement of the Golden King and the health status of TikTok Olori. The evidence didn't stop there. There were messages discussing the China story, the exact lie that was fed to the public to make it look like TikTok Olori was out of the country when she was actually in the hospital. The maid confessed that she was just a messenger and that she was being told what to send to certain bloggers. The room went cold. Gospel, who everyone thought was the quiet one, was now being looked at as the chief architect of the palace's public dragging. When this news reached Olorishadow, who is supposed to be Gospel's partner in crime, she did not come to her friend's defense. Instead, Olorishadow took 10 steps backwards. She realized that if she stayed too close to Gospel now, the fire will consume her too. The friendship that was built on secrets started to crumble like a wall of sand. Olorishadow reportedly told the elders, "I knew she talked too much, but I did not know she was the one feeding the enemies of the throne." Gospel was summoned before the Ife elders in a closed-door session that lasted for hours. They say her crying could be heard even from the palace reeds. She was no longer just dealing with the anger of TikTok Olori. She was now facing the wrath of the ancestors for breaking the sacred silence of the crown. The elders asked her one simple question. Why do you trade the dignity of your husband's house for the likes and comments of strangers? The wahala reached a new level when it was revealed that some of the leaks were even targeting the Golden King's private business dealings. This was no longer just a wife fight. It had become a threat to the security of the kingdom of Ife. The Golden King sat on his throne, his face a mask of disappointment. He had sent Gospel's aunt away to bring peace, only to find out that the person causing the most fire was still inside the room.
The final moment of truth has arrived in the palace of Ife. The air was so still you could hear the heartbeat of the guards as the Golden King prepared to give his final word. Gospel was on her knees, her royal wrapper soaked with tears,
her voice almost gone from hours of begging and crying. The evidence on the phone, the confession of the maid, and the backstabbing testimony from her former friends had left her with no place to hide. The Golden King stood up from his throne, looking not with anger, but with a deep, heavy sadness. He looked at Gospel and said, "A wife is supposed to be the gatekeeper of her husband's secret, not the one who leaves the gate wide open for the world to laugh at him." He reminded her that the sacred silence of Ogunjaye is not a suggestion, but the law that keeps the crown high. By feeding bloggers, she hadn't just attacked TikTok Olori, she had attempted to pull down the pillars of the throne itself. The Kabiyesi then delivered a decree that sent shockwaves through the palace. He declared that Gospel would be placed on a total social media ban within the palace. Her phones were seized, her access to certain outsiders was permanently cut off, and she was ordered to remain in a state of reflection and cleansing under the strict supervision of the Ife elders. She was not sent away like her aunt, but she was stripped of her influence. She is now a queen in name, but a student in practice, living under a shadow of her own making. TikTok Olori, seeing her rival brought so low, did not celebrate. Instead, she was seen holding her child tightly, realizing that in this palace, the person smiling with you today could be the one dragging you tomorrow. Olori's shadow, the partner in crime, has completely distanced herself, proving that in the game of power, there are no permanent friends, only permanent interests. The China story has been debunked, the leaks have been traced, and for the first time in months, a heavy forced silence has returned to the palace of Ife. Please note, my crown geese friends and families, we must remind you that all the details in this story are alleged. These are rumors and unverified information making the rounds on social media. This story is shared for entertainment purposes based on reports from various sources, and it should not be taken as absolute fact. We are simply bringing you the gist as it flows in the digital streets. The liquor has been caught, but the wounds in the palace are deep. Can trust ever be restored between the wives, or is this just become before a much bigger storm? Only time will tell if Gospel can truly earn back the immunity she threw away for a few hours of social media relevance. Thank you for staying with Crown Geese. You are the real kings and queens of this channel. If you haven't liked this video yet, please do so now and tell me what you think in the comments.